Jiro here for Umbra Games with a review of Assault Suit Leynos on PlayStation 4. Assault Suit Leynos is a remake of the Genesis game called Target Earth, originally released in the States in 1990. Only possessing a Nintendo and eventually a Super Nintendo back then, I wasn't familiar with the title. I do, however, remember seeing and renting Cybernator, which turns out is actually Assault Suit's Valken, the second game of the same series, both putting you into giant mech suits and facing an invading army. This version of the game harkens back to its original Japanese title, as it was released digitally on PlayStation Network on July 12, 2016, and physical copies followed on August 30th of 2016, brought to us by publisher Rising Star Games, with the remake being developed by Dracu Software. An attack on Earth from the depths of space is imminent, and your job as mech pilot Rex is to help evacuate, defend, and counterattack the incoming threat, ending in a showdown with the commander and his flagship. Armed with an ever-increasing arsenal, the journey begins on the moon of Jupiter called Ganymede, with Rex missing the initial attack on Earth and is tasked with helping fellow humans escape the oncoming siege. Assault Suit Leynos is easily thrown into the generic side-scrolling shooter at first look, but unlike many games in the genre, the goal is rarely just to reach the end of the stage. The game features one of the earliest occurrences of an escort mission that I could place, and other missions have you taking down massive ships before they reach your fleet. While they don't provide too much assistance, friendly AI-controlled troops will often be visible, not just in the background, but fighting alongside you, giving you a feeling of being in a massive-scale war. Several sources I researched cite the original Target Earth as being one of the most difficult games on the Genesis. This new version features a new arcade mode, while still tough at moments, features infinite continues and scaled-down opposition. But fear not, the classic mode can still be accessed from the options menu, and yeah, it's still hard. One barrier to entry for new people would be the control scheme. In recreating what it would probably be like to move a giant hunk of metal, the response, the aiming, and even the zero-gravity navigation feels just a tad sluggish. When you have tons of things flying at you all at the same time, once you realize how impenetrable the shield you have the option of carrying is, it will never leave your side. That said though, the shield could kind of be viewed as game-breaking. Because another innovation this game brought forth in the 90s is your suit's ability to regenerate life when damage isn't being taken, much like many of the modern popular shooters. So when you're in danger, it becomes easier to just throw up your shield to absorb nearly any bullet, and let your life build back up. The result of this often kind of resembles a fencing match of shooting and blocking, another mechanic underutilized in the genre. This can break some of the boss battles though. There are 3 tutorials to help you get used to the control layout, and I'd highly recommend repeating them until you meet their timed requirements. Even with all that though, it's probably about an hour of playtime into the main game before I even felt comfortable. The aforementioned aiming difficulty comes from using the left stick or D-pad, both moving your suit and aiming, with the ability to lock it into place by holding L1. This situation is magnified when in zero gravity and you want to aim down, which in turn pulls you down. If there's a surface below you when you actually land, you can't just press up to fly back up, you have to jump again. The necessity to lock your gun into position in these levels also increases the challenge though, due to the agility of many of the foes you face. I understand there were no dual sticks back in the Genesis days, and I'm actually very curious how this game would handle on a Genesis controller. You're rated by how thoroughly and efficiently you complete each of the game's 8 levels, and you are awarded a ranking. The better you perform, the more equipment options become available to you, from armor to shrapnel guns, grenade launchers, and bazookas. You get to choose your loadout at the beginning of every stage, filling up to 6 slots. There are several options, features, and bonuses also unlocked as you level up your score counter, all in all adding a decent amount of replay value. A couple of the stages even have plot differences, including saving a fellow pilot from burning up in the atmosphere. Graphically speaking, I found myself wanting an option to flip back and forth between old and new graphics with the push of a button, something akin to Halo Anniversary Edition, just out of curiosity. The multi-depth parallax scrolling in the new version is very well done, and it still maintains the 16-bit spirit of what I've seen from the original. Several bosses are comprised of multiple sprite pieces, giving them several destructible parts and adding to their perceived level of threat. There's a lot more story in this game over the average shooter as well, featuring in-depth history before each stage, cutscenes at the beginning and end, as well as transition scenes in the levels themselves. Fellow pilots are killed, and once again, through the cast of characters you meet, it doesn't just feel like you versus the world, but that you're part of something bigger. All dialogue keeps its original Japanese voices with no English dubbing, and while the lines can be a little campy and cliche at times, they still succeed in conveying what's at stake. There's a final plot twist that I personally didn't see coming, but I admit the giant mech anime scene is one that I've never been well versed in. Overall, I think the fans of the original Target Earth on Sega Genesis will probably have a little more of an enjoyable experience than those of us who are new to it. That's not to say I didn't enjoy my time with it, and I'm actively attempting to track down a copy on Genesis, so maybe we'll do a review of that in the future. Rated as a 2D side-scrolling shooter, Assault Suit Leynos receives a 71 out of 100 on a true 1 to 100 scale, with 50 being average. This is Jiro for Umbra Games. Thanks for watching. Original classics and their remasters, subscribe to the channel to catch more reviews, or follow me on Twitter @UmbraGames.